Good time zones, my Sakonauts. I'm Sako Tumi, also known as the Witch of Tylwyth Teg, and today we are talking about organization and planning help in the Witch's Book of Self-Care by Erin Murphy Hiscock. If we haven't met before, I'd like to welcome you back to my channel. It's very nice to meet you. And if you have been here before, it's so lovely to see you back. I super love you guys. I'd like to start this morning with a grounding ritual to start your day. This starts near your domain, so if you've not created a domain, then you might want to sign up for my newsletter, which will offer a free audio meditation for it, which is linked below. Good morning, doll. Here we go, grounding ritual. Sit with your hands in your lap and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it for a moment. And as you let it out completely through your mouth, let go of the tension from the night and the grogginess of the morning. Take another deep breath in. As you breathe in, imagine you are breathing in pure love. As you breathe out, imagine you are breathing out forgiveness. Take a third deep breath in, and as you do so, imagine a light coming in at the top of your head. It enters at the top of your head and spreads down over your face, neck, and shoulders. This cleansing light now expands along your back, down your legs, and out through your feet. It is as if cleansing light is a constant flow of soothing energy entering from your head and passing out through the arches of your feet. You are just outside the door of your domain. The air is crisp and cool. The evergreens sway slightly in the breeze, and the ground has a large patch of moss at your feet. Step barefoot onto the moss. Feel how soft it is. Feel the solid ground underneath. That light coming into your head can now be translated into energy that you can send out your feet. Convert the light into roots and send the roots out the bottoms of your feet and deep into the earth, as deep as you can. The soil is fresh, easy to toil, easy to carve a path down. Feel how anchored you are, how close to the earth. Reach as far down as you can. The earth hugs your roots comfortably, no matter how sharp or curly, no matter how many times they split off. Slowly pull the roots back up the way they came. Your roots slither through the dark, the soil filling in its wake. Pull the roots back into your feet, convert it back to the light, and let the light filter through you and out the top of your head. Take one more deep breath in and begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. When you are ready, open your eyes. Welcome. If you're just joining us, we just did our morning grounding ritual. If you are interested in more meditations like this one, but more exploratory, you might want to look at subscribing to my Patreon, where I will be releasing 2 a month to help you on your supernatural journey. Until then, you can join me for coffee in the mornings here on YouTube. Hi, Spence. It's lovely to see you. I'm going to pull today's card. This is my self-care deck. We will see what aspects of our personality we want to address today. Six of Swords. I don't think it's going to mean travel. Is my light going away again? Jesus. There we go. At least consistent light. Times change with the rise of the tide, and right now you are doing your best to stay afloat. Change is not always easy, but this is a necessary transition in your life. You are braving troubled waters to catch bigger fish in the sea. New and strange environments may leave you feeling adrift, especially without your core humans and the comfort of your home. Just know that you can always come home to yourself when you start to feel overwhelmed. Leaving home base allows you to grow and expand in unexpected ways. Opportunities were limited in the past, and you ventured off to new territory to better your future. New land means a new perspective, as environment shapes us into who we are. Ride the waves. It's easier to go with the flow than to resist the pull. I know, right? Hi, Katerina. Glad you could make it. Usually I'm further along and on the clock than 8 minutes, so I feel like maybe I rushed through the grounding a little bit. Organization and planning help. Yay, always a joy. I'm so glad. I do not connect with this deck very much. Oh, I'm sorry. With this Mystic Mondays deck, that one. Oh, my deck called me a bitch this morning. Yeah. Your deck must be mad at you. Sounds like it needs a cleansing. Which there are a number of ways you can cleanse a tarot deck. The easiest is to leave it out in the moonlight. Full moon, obviously, the most oomph. One of the things that probably stresses you out the most is how to break larger tasks down into manageable ones. Here's a list of suggestions. Look at the due date of a task or deadline you are facing. List all the elements of the project that need to be addressed before then. It was right, though. It was very specific about how I was being a bitch. Oh. Hi, Tani. Lovely to see you, my love. My sweetie darling. Assign smaller due dates to smaller elements of the project. Start with the projects that later parts will be dependent on. Build wiggle room into your schedule to account for illness or other emergencies you may have to handle. That is like Caro's number one tip in scheduling stuff is just schedule it like you're sick. Just assume that you're sick and give yourself plenty of time to do the thing. Don't procrastinate. Don't let all the work fall on the shoulders of the future you. That's an abuse of your energy and a disrespect of your future self. I find it easier to... I wonder if I can still get some moon charge for some candles. I'm in full in bulk prep. I believe today is... or tonight. Last night was 100%. I believe tonight is like a 98%. I meant to do some witchy stuff last night, but so hard not to do. What puts stuff off for future you? Make past you a friend, yeah. Hi, Debbie. To not put stuff on your future self. I caught you doing that yesterday with the, oh, I need to do writing. I'll do writing tomorrow. Maybe I'll help, and maybe we'll do a writing sprint stuff after this, because I have a lot of work to do. Because I took Monday off. Usually Fridays are my day off. Oh. Maybe one day I'll actually break down how I do things. Let's see. Use alarms, reminders, pretty sticky notes, a calendar grid with different color markers to note various steps of your process, anything and everything that can help you stay on top of what needs to be done. There are also some magical things you can do to lessen the stress of planning and organizing, including making a special charm bag and keeping track of your self-care. Planning and organization charm bag. My sister was in full witchy celebration mood yesterday. We went shopping, and the first thing she did was howl at me because it was also the wolf moon. Yes! Yes. Yes, yesterday was rough for me, but I was totally intending on doing all the witchy things yesterday and ended up passing out in front of the fire instead. Tapping into the hearth. Seriously, I'm so impressed with how much you all accomplished. Y'all are goals. I am trying to accomplish things. I'm trying my best. You can make a small charm bag or bottle to help you cope with keeping everything organized. Brown jasper, a kind of quartz, helps with long-term energy maintenance. Mint helps with focus. And lang lang and bergamot oils will help you stay calm while still attentive. Okay. So the cool thing about bags and bottles and jars and balls is that they're all basically the same thing. The only thing that's changing is the container. So if you go to Michael's, especially like right about now, they might still have ornaments that are designed so that you can put stuff in them. So you pop off the top, stuff some stuff in there, and pop it back on. Those are great, and they're usually like $1, maybe $2. They make great witches balls. Great witches balls. I use the Kettle One sample bottles for witches bottles. I need to actually make said witches bottles, which is really funny. I wonder why I never thought of doing that before for selling things. Probably because shipping glass sucks. I cleaned my hearth yesterday. My autumn wreath was broken down and put in the hearth with some dried holly and pine cones, hoping to lit that for Imbolc. That's going to be awesome. So she's really big on like invocations and saying your intention. Good morning, Raven. Glad you could make it. So if you are into invocations, I don't know if any of you are. Let's see. Start by cleansing and purifying your supplies. See chapter 1. Center and ground yourself. Also chapter 1. Place the mint in the bowl, saying, "Mint, bring me focus so I can keep my mind on my tasks." Add the drops of Lang Lang to the mint, saying, "Lang Lang, bring me peace and serenity so that I remain calm in the face of my schedule." Lang Lang is also good for curses. So, whatever oil works for you with keeping your mind focused. Peppermint would be good. Let's see. Add the drops of bergamot oil, saying, "Bring me clarity and confidence." Hold the brown jasper and say, "I call on your energies of management and organization. Bring me long-term capability to schedule, plan, and manage my time." Stir with your fingers, saying, "I am calm, I am focused, I manage my time confidently, so may it be." Or say, "So mote it be," or whatever incantation works for you. Pour or scoop the mix into the sachet or jar or whatever, and tie it closed or put the lid on. Hang or place it next to your wall calendar or carry it with your agenda or journal. I suppose you could do that. If you make a miniature version of this, it could be small enough to tie onto your agenda or journal as a charm or hang on your calendar. I added Lang Lang on the cloth I used to wipe my hearth mainly because of the yellow color. Track your self-care. If you struggle with chronic condition or are overwhelmed by trying to organize your life, start by tracking only 3 or 4 of your self-care successes at once. Recognizing a success can give you the sense of accomplishment that helps support a positive mood. Instead of writing on loose paper, you could use your self-care journal or start a separate small notebook for habit tracking. I heard Lang Lang in my misappropriated the name Lim Lim, the cat-sized cricket, frog-like creature from the Planescape D&D universe. That's funny. This is literally tracking sleep,
Did you eat properly? Did you exercise? Something kind I did for myself. And tracking those things. I find that stuff micromanaging my life, which I am trying really hard not to do. I do track what I do, and I track my successes, and I track what I'm grateful for. I track my sleep. Because my sleep really affects my mood, right? So that feels overwhelming. Yeah, right? That micromanaging of your life is not necessarily beneficial. I've been trying to function since about 2 a.m. My brain is like a sponge sodden with whiskey. Yes, one of my favorite additions to my Bujo this year were review pages. Review pages are great, so that I take the time to acknowledge that I actually accomplished goals and not just barreling into the next task. Absolutely. I do the same thing at the end of every week. I talk about 3 big wins that I had that week. Then I talk about what's coming in the next week. Then I set up for the next week with my projects. I used to do 10 projects. Now I think I'm doing 6 with the same amount of time, because I track my hours that I'm putting into work. So that I know I'm being productive, so that I know I'm putting in the hours, I'm putting in the time I am moving forward. Sometimes I feel like I'm not being productive, even though I've been working all day. I just need like some kind of proof that I am accomplishing what it is that I want to accomplish. You want structure, but with flexibility. Otherwise, you avoid. Yeah. Good morning, Kat. How much do I need to write to get a novel done in a year? A year is actually pretty good, especially if you fast draft. Depends on what kind of book you want to release. I say give 3 months to do drafts 1 and 2, and then ship it off to your betas or an editor. I haven't decided which yet. I think I'd do the editor first. I wrote it down somewhere. It's in one of my bujos. Send it off, period. Wait for it to come back. I'm giving 2 months for people to do whatever with the book and then give it back to me with commentary. And then I do another draft. Then it goes off to the editor. And then I do another draft. I think, and then sometimes I'll do a proofreader. Really depends on the person. Some do editor first, some do beta first. Yeah. I think it depends on how confident I am with the draft as to whether I will send it to an editor or a beta first. It took me 3 drafts of Hope's Chest before I was confident enough to send it to betas. Because I saw problems in it long before, and it was structural. It was. So I was learning structure as I was writing that book. So that took me a long time, but I'm hoping to get Sanguine Sigil ready for print. I'm hoping to actually release as Victoria von Rock, the Project Flambeau, which we still don't have a name for, which is interesting. That seems fast for a draft one. Oh, then I think it depends on how much time it takes for you to outline. If you're free writing, I have no idea what to tell you. But if you're outlining, it takes me a week to 2 weeks to outline properly. And then I'll do a first draft pretty quickly. And then I'll do another outline based on what I wrote. And then kind of compare the two and see if I actually like hit the mark on some of those beats, or if I need to rewrite or add those things. I'm doing that this year, and it's uncomfortable as fuck. Yeah. It really depends on the person. Some do editor first, some do beta first. I just need to write the draft. I'm letting writing lag. Daily practice. I have to advise, if you're going to do it in 3 months, daily practice. Even if it's just like an hour a day or 5 minutes here, 15 minutes there, just touch on it. You don't pay attention to word count and any of that stuff. Just progress in the story. Just accomplish writing the beats. And then when it's all done, then you can look at the word count and figure out if you need to buff it up or if you need to cut it back or what's up. I never thought I'd be so mad about finishing a first draft of a novel, but I'm so unhappy with the way this turned out. I'm having trouble shit canning the whole draft and starting over from scratch. Don't think of it as shit canning, think of it as cannibalizing. You have a story, and it's not the story that you meant to tell, so cannibalize it into the story that you want to tell. Yeah, it's daunting to start it from scratch all over again, but that outline that I was just talking about, after you've finished your first draft, you can reassess what you need to do structurally to make it not suck. I'm finishing out the outline, drafting in February, sitting on it for March, rewriting in April, setting it off for humans in June, draft 3 in July, final draft in August, and then release in December, right? Oh, hopping. And from September to December doing all the other stuffs. Yeah. I am light outlining. At least do the big 6. This big 6 beats, and then you can free write everything else. But the big 6, your inciting incident, 1, 2, acts 1, 2, and 3, and then the climax and the epilogue. As long as you can figure those out, everything else can just fill in the gaps. You can free write the fill in of the gaps. I think I figure myself a light. I do a 30 beat sheet, but that makes a rather sparse story. We did it for Project Flambeau, and it made for like 25,000 words. I genuinely feel like I rushed the pacing and tried to pack entirely so much setting establishment into the narrative that there are barely any actual story left. I strongly recommend a book Bible, because that stuff isn't for them. It isn't for the reader. That stuff is for you, right? So you figure out what's important when it comes to claiming the setting, and then the story, the focus needs to be on the story. World building is great. It's awesome. It's fun. It's taxing. There's a lot goes into world building, but that's for you. That's not for the reader. So as much work as you put into the book Bible, that isn't for the reader. You just got to figure out what's important to say. It can come up in conversation. I recommend showing, not telling. And make sure it has something to do with the story. I struggle to butt in chair and put and pen to paper. Reward yourself for doing it. And self-care doesn't count as a reward. I've been using food, which I probably shouldn't because I'm trying to watch my weight and all of that. I'm trying to figure out other ways to reward myself without sacrificing things like eating at all, or showering, or sleeping, or none of that counts. None of that counts as reward. I can accomplish beats. Beats are literally how I write. I just have like a note of what I want to accomplish in the scene, how I'm moving the story forward, and then I free write that shit. I'm basically RPing by myself. Which there's a couple of scenes that we're adding for this draft that we're working on, which is somewhere between 2 and 3. You don't have to button chair all the time. I totally cheat and will voice text. So Savvy just started using the Otter app, OTTR, I think it is, or OTTER, I can't remember which, where you dictate, and I think it would work really well for outlining. And then edit during the butt time. Yeah. I need to do that. My ego is really trying to save me from failure. Don't think of it as failure. It is through obstacles that we gain wisdom, right? So in retrospect, you are noticing that you are self-sabotaging regarding sitting in the chair and doing the things. Even if it's 5 minutes, set a timer, do Pomodoros. You can do like a 5-minute work set and then like a 30-minute go do something else set. Clean your house or take a bath or do something for you. I like this plan, Tani and Sako. Thank you. Thank you, Ego. There are some head pats. I have everything but the exact ending. Isn't that a trip? And that's the whole climax and epilogue thing, right? You need what happens, what is the effect of the, how do I put this? What is the climax? Why is it important? And what are the effects? What is the aftermath? Cause and effect. Just need to write it out. Yeah. I'm also an obsessive outliner, borderline snowflake method. Yeah. I'm of the mind I can fix the plot problems in the outline much better than in the draft. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Me too. Plot embryo. I don't think I know that. Get it? Line outlines mess with my flow. Line outlines also mess with my flow. So I get that. Well, that tears it. I need a second set or more of eyes on this manuscript to see if my introduction of the elements of the setting comes off naturally or if it's gratuitous. What genre is it? Now would be a great time to send it off to betas. Slow down and treat yourself. Treating yourself is a fun way to engage in some self-care. We often think of a treat being food or drink or some kind of retail therapy, but it can be curling up with a book and a cup of tea or sitting in the sun with a cat on your lap. Don't multitask by combining your treats unless you specifically design one as something stacked, like a fancy coffee while reading a good book, for example. If you overload your treat time, you'll lose out on the full experience of enjoying each aspect, and the self-care might become perfunctory. Perfunctory. That's an SAT word if I ever saw one. There are a few things to keep in mind about treating yourself. If your treat is commonplace, it won't be a treat. Try to keep it as something special that you only do every once in a while. Alternatively, schedule a smaller treat as me time on a regular basis and stick to it as ongoing self-care. I schedule I take a nap in the middle of the day. About 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours, depending. Whoa. I had an outline for my first draft and was like 18 pages, and the draft itself was 25K. Yeah. When I do the next draft of that year, I hope to double it. A spell from my wall. Effort and difficulty lead to improvement. It isn't shameful for something to be difficult. That is how you learn. I don't believe in failure. My sister certainly does, but I just think of it as a learning experience. I could have thought of it as failure, but it's just life changed. I've honestly lost the sense of what genre this is supposed to be. It has some beats of a mystery, underlying cosmic horror. Hook me up. I schedule going for a walk for 30 minutes by myself. Case in point. It's a great idea. Or perhaps it's something you do already, but you want to do it in a different way. I.e., even grocery shopping at a different time on your own can be seen as a treat if you're doing it with children at peak hours is usually your mode of operation. Remember, it all depends on your context. The important thing about a treat is that it has to be experienced mindfully. What's the point of scheduling yourself a treat if you're not going to pay attention while doing it? Oh, that's interesting. We fail, and 90% of the time the sun comes up the next day. Yeah. Oh, here we go. I firmly believe that failure is a thing that happens, but I also believe it's a big of a deal as we make it out to be. Adventure Time had, like, Jake made a quote at one time, you gotta suck at something in order to get good at something, right? I don't think of sucking at something as failure. I take a hot bath with the door locked. Right on. Thinking that anything but instant success being failure is not a thought that supports any human experience. Hear, hear. I have yet to learn anything from a success. I learned quite a bit from successes, which is one of the reasons why I started tracking them. It really helps my self-esteem. It really helps my ego. Really helps my sense of self-worth. Sucking at something is the first step to being kind of good at something. Yep. Exactly. Failure is what happens when you let a mistake stop you from learning and pressing on with new knowledge. I think failure is a state of mind. The learning happened during the journey. Hey, a big studio philosophy I have is sucking at stuff so I have the opportunity to get better. Yeah. So a mindful test or a mindful treat. A mindful treat. Before you actually begin your treat, close your eyes and take a bit of time to be in the moment. Let all the things that have been dogging you melt away. It's just you and whatever you've chosen as your treat. In your mind, say, this time is mine. I declare it so, if that works for you. Take the time to really enjoy all the dimensions of your treat. Watch people, notice the sense of the area you're in, taste things mindfully, enjoy the sensations of turning the pages, or discovering the story in your book or on your e-reader. If that's how you treat yourself, then great. If you can't fully settle into your treat time, don't force it. And don't allow yourself to be irritated that it isn't as special as you want it to be. Not every moment of your self-care will be blissful, but it will be time spent doing what you have chosen to do, and that is important. Naturally, mindfulness will be different if you're in a crowd with a group of friends for your treat. Adjust your expectations and roll on. Indulging in failure is almost a kind of delusion. It certainly can be. For instance, in 2008, that was the worst year of my life. My fiance and I had split up, and he was still dicking me around. No, yeah, we officially split up. We were on the rocks. And I lost my dream job. I lost my apartment and I had to move back home where there wasn't any space for me to move back home. So I was homeless. So I basically couch surfed for 7 years. Like 3 days here, 4 days there. And I never thought of that as failure. Those were all forces outside of my control. I was laid off. My boss made promises that we couldn't fulfill. And we lost the account, and therefore they could no longer afford me. So that was outside of my control. My sister became chronically ill, which meant that she couldn't hold her job in the Navy anymore. She couldn't hold her civilian job anymore. And therefore, she felt like a failure because she couldn't pay the bills. But, she was still in the mindset that you are what you do. So the idea that she was no longer in the Navy, like, threw her under the bus. Like, she just could not cope. And I have been processing the concept of who I am without my art. Who am I without my art? I'm Sako. Like, that's kind of like a big deal regarding these readings in the morning and hanging out with you guys. It's because you're not talking to me because my art is good, right? Because I do art. You are talking to me because you are interested in my personality. You're interested in what I have to say about these books. You are, you know, like, we're friends, right? So hard not to take a job loss personally. It's a kind of grief. I had times where I felt no more options and had to destroyed my only chance. That was my peak. That late 2007, early 2008 dream job as a creative director, as the primary graphic designer, rather, at a marketing company. At the time, that was my dream job. And forces outside my control had me laid off. Failure is something that must be felt, expressed, accepted, and let go. I don't feel it. It's a heavy stick you carry around down a wooden path. And the first step forward is acknowledging you're dragging a tree. You have to look at the opportunity as failed in order to think of it as a tree following you, as opposed to just a door you walked through. No, it's I love you bits. Ooh. I put the Mountain Speaks Mark III in the shared beta that we shared years ago. Oh, okay. It doesn't like tell me when stuff in there updates. I struggle with my failures. I have to admit, the only time I feel like a failure is when I'm injured. If I physically can't do something, I can feel like a failure. And it's simple things. It's always like super simple. If there's a place more convenient for you to check it out when you have the time or inclination, let me know. No, the beta folder's great. I will check it out. We came for the cool art, stayed for the cool personality. Oh, I thank you. Getting laid off is by no way a failure on your part, though, which is where I think our differences of opinion come from. That's just injustice, not a failure. Right, right? They never showed up to the hearing, so at least I got unemployment. I feel like I showed up for the personality and got the art as a fringe benefit. But I got to know Sako outside of her art first. Absolutely. We met in person at a party, I think, long before you knew I was an artist, but long before we knew we were both writers. Like, we just happened to know the same person who was hosting the party. And I think you were living at the house at the time. Process failure equals growth. Avoid failure equals victimhood. Either way, it hurts, but one option keeps you stuck. Pain felt today is from pain avoided in the past. It's interesting. All I knew was you had a cool Starfleet outfit. Yeah. Oh, you never lived at the asylum. Okay. This is so wise. I feel like I'm really growing today. Oh. So the next section is like clearing your energy, being open to receive love, create a treasure bag for self-care. There should be objects inside. They don't mention the objects for some reason, which is hilarious, but be willing to accept failure. Why don't we skip ahead to that? Be willing to accept failure is incredibly difficult. It means you have to admit that success is not guaranteed and that you might fail even if you do all the right things. But being willing to fail means that you get to take risks and that could yield amazing outcomes. And one of the things you need to understand is that a mistake isn't a failure. It's proof that you're trying. And every time you try, you learn a little bit more about whatever it is that you're hoping to accomplish. Bonus, you learn a little bit more about yourself as well. Everything is a learning experience. It may not necessarily be an enjoyable experience, but it's always valuable. So that is kind of how I look at things. I come from the perspective, I set out to accomplish a thing and the thing didn't happen. That's a failure. I don't think of that as a failure. I just think I need a new deadline. So much of my life I've planned and then it fell through. Like the the fiance that I had broken up with, I had a wedding dress, I had the rings, I had the venue, like all of that shit was, we were 3 to 6 months out, and we split up. We were not ready to get married. And being told over and over that you didn't fail at that kept me stuck longer than having a good scream, cry, tantrum, albeit it lasted a month, and let out my grief and rage and frustration at my mistakes and failures. When it was all done, I've never felt so good. No plan survives the battlefield. And with that came the perspective that failure is not a big deal. It's not. It's so much not a big deal because I don't call it failure. I think that's just semantics, though, as far as like how we're looking at things. Deadlines are just an estimate of when I achieve my goals. Absolutely. And oftentimes I just watch my goals whiz by me, which is one of the reasons why I'm narrowing down my projects and trying to knock out what it is I'm doing. I was supposed to finish a comic this week, an 8-page comic, but Monday and Tuesday were kind of washes. So I got to work this weekend and hope that I can make up for lost time. I don't think of that as a failure. If I were not to finish this comic by the end of the week, I am not thinking of that as a failure. I'm thinking of that as they're just, my mom was in the fucking hospital and I needed time to process that. I needed to be there for my mom. Right? So that's not, calling that a failure is not being fair to myself. I love deadlines. I love the whooshing sound they make as they go past. Yeah. My goals seem to whiz by me sometimes. I got the battlefield spell from my partner. It really whipped me out of a funk when he first said it. He has a lot of good spells too. This helps so forking much. You need a time and space. Call it life and be kind to yourself. Yeah, right? And so I have to make up for that time, right? But there were still 30 hours left of the week that I could put in the time, right? So, and I think I do kind of want to add tones at least. I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to take me to do this. I would have been the same way, yeah. You had to recover too. I did have to recover. Only with the grandma, yeah. Holy crap. I got a massive text that I will have to read later. If you liked this video at any point, please hit the like button. If you are interested in seeing what we talk about in the rest of this book, please to be hitting subscribe, maybe even ring that bell so that you get the notifications when I go live. I do have a Patreon, even if it is a little expensive, but I do offer a lot. And I will catch you guys. See? At the end of the day, nothing happens without me, so self-care comes first. Yep. If I collapse, those goals aren't happening anyways, right? Yeah. And goals not happening aren't failure. You know, and I don't believe in excuses. It's just something didn't happen. Something else is going to happen instead. It's not always as awesome as if I would have made deadline, but it just means I have to reassess my goals. So I guess I will catch you guys on the flip side. Now that I have done my outro and things.